Hello, kidney warriors. James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach. And this is another episode of Dadvice TV Live. Now, tonight we've got a hot topic, so we're going to get right to it really quickly. My co-host is an expert in treating and managing kidney disease and also the author of a book that I wish every person that got diagnosed with kidney disease would be handed his book, because it is easy to read, easy to understand, and it tells you what you need to focus on. And more importantly, it talks about when is the right time to start dialysis for those that actually do need it. Because a lot of doctors still are recommending dialysis early, and especially if you're older, the data shows that may not be the right decision. But he is the author of the book Learn the Facts About Kidney Disease. This is a wonderful book, very easy to read, very easy to understand. You can go to go.dadvicetv.com/book to get a link to order it directly from Amazon, or you can go down to your local mom and pop store, show them some love, because Amazon is the big giant one out there. Show them some love and they can order a copy for you. And of course, the author is Dr. Stephen Rosansky. Hey, Doc, how you doing?
I'm good, James. Good. Good to see you and good to be on your show. And I am excited about this talk that we're going to have tonight, because it is really hot stuff and important stuff. And there's a lot of confusion about it. And I hope to clear it up for your viewers and for you too, James, because you are a kidney patient.
Yep.
And so James likes me to give you my background. You want me to do that, I assume, James?
Yeah, that way people know why it's important to listen to what you say and not the scam stuff that's out there all over the internet.
I am a retired kidney specialist. I still see patients in the free clinic. I actually saw a bunch of people a few days ago. And I have taken care of kidney patients for over 40 years. I've taken care of hundreds, maybe thousands of patients probably. I have also done a good bit of my own research and have published a good bit of work on the issue of when to start dialysis, which I've been recognized for that being one of my papers was voted the #1 game changer in nephrology, I think in 2011, because it showed that far too many people are starting early on dialysis. And I also have done a good bit of work on things that cause progression of kidney disease, which is one of the topics that we will refer to a good bit tonight, because it's always an important issue. Because as we've discussed many times, most of you are CKD3A, and I'll say it right up front, it's very unusual for people with CKD stage 3, which is 30 to 60 eGFR, very unusual that you will be getting to the point where you'll need dialysis or a kidney transplant. But we won't dwell on that yet. We'll talk a little bit about it in a bit. But let's get right into the whole issue of what are we talking about today. We're going to talk about why I think that all of you folks out there with kidney problems need to know that going on a low protein diet could be not just not beneficial, which I think is very debatable if it is or is not beneficial, but it may well be harmful for a lot of you folks. So let me give you a little background. I wrote that book that James showed you up there. And before I wrote the book, I went and looked about online, looked at Amazon, looked at all the other books. I got a hold of all the books that were written by docs. I want to see what other doctors have written. And there was a doctor from Hopkins, which is a very respectable place, who wrote a book in the 90s. So it's a very old book. And he was still selling this book when I was getting ready to get my book out in 2020. Yeah, it was around COVID. Get my book out around 2020. And he's one of the many people that was sold on the low protein thing. And this was his own research. And I must tell you, a lot of us academics get locked into whatever research, whatever particular thing we're doing work on, and we don't want to give up on it. And I think that's the case with a lot of my colleagues who have done the work on the low protein stuff, which has been out there since the 60s. And the only randomized controlled trial was a disaster. The people with very low protein died. They died much more frequently than the people that were on regular protein or just a little bit of a low protein. And then they've tried to prove it left and right, and so many people have been working on this. But here's the thing, and my thing is a lot of my colleagues are stuck in the past. And this thing goes back to the 60s. And I won't bore you with the theory. There was a theory that had a lot of, followers, and part of the theory played into the low protein diet in the idea. It was like, if you eat, here's the theory in a nutshell, James. You eat a lot of protein, your kidneys got to work harder. When the kidneys work harder, they could be damaged because there's animal models. This is what happens in animals, okay? Mm-hmm. All right, there you go. All right. So, but here's the deal. None of these studies, and up till today, there is no study out there that they've taken people who are at risk of getting kidney failure and given them all the things we know, which we're going to mention again, which we do almost every show, that can slow progression of kidney disease. In order to demonstrate that you've got something that's going to help your patient, you got to give them stuff that we know works. There is no study out there that has done that yet, and I don't think there ever will be. Okay. We've got a lot of new drugs. We've given a lot of talks on this Dadvice show about the new drugs. They're very exciting. And I have to mention them every show. And James, start out with the two top of the old ones that slow kidney.
The old and affordable, that's the key word.
Very cheap, very, very cheap.
Very cheap, ACEs and ARB. So one of those, an ACE or an ARB.
And the ACEs end in what 3 letters? 4 letters.
Are those the Prill?
Yay! Okay, James.
I took a guess. I took a guess. It was either Prill or Tan.
The ARBs are the TANs. They end in TAN. I make life a little more complicated for you, James, and for me. But there are 3 other classes of drugs. I'll mention the one that there's an enormous amount of good positive research that shows it works. It slows decline. And they are called the SGLT2s. And these drugs are ending in gliflozin. And that we only talk generic names, by the way. So it's canagliflozin, empagliflozin. Okay. And then there's the GLP-1, the diet drugs, which are still, the jury's out, but that's probably going to also show some good kidney benefits. And then the aldo antagonists. We'll mention them again a little later. But
after our call's over, I'll add them all to the description. We've got them in the descriptions of a lot of our past conversations, but I'll add them after our conversation to the description in this video.
Yeah, the GLP-1s are the glutide, the semaglutide, the liraglutide. Anyway, that's not what our emphasis is tonight. So why low and especially very low protein? Oh, do I have a problem with that? Why is low and lower? Why are they dangerous? Why can they be dangerous? Okay, and we'll get right into it, James. You're gonna like this one. Here's the saying: there are 2 certainties in life. What are they, James?
Death and taxes.
And there's a third: loss of muscle, which is called a big word. Sarcopenia, which means your muscles go away. And we are all losing muscle as we age without strength training. You lose up to 1/3 of your muscle mass between ages of 50 and 70. And by the age of 70, a lot of us have lost half our muscle, which is the reason, and I practice what I preach. I go to the gym every day. Now, you don't have to do that. You can go once a week or twice a week. And any exercise is good. We've said that over and over again. And we'll get into it in a minute. So Less muscle, sarcopenia. What are the downside? What do you think happens to folks as they get older and they lose muscle mass? What are some of the things that you think happens,
Are you
James?
going to be at higher risk of like falling and getting hurt?
Yep, yep. Less mobility, increased falls, increased fractures, twice the risk of breaking your hip, your collarbone, your leg, your arm, or your wrist. If you have this muscle loss and you don't try to get your muscle back, you are at risk of falls. And these are not, like car crashes. These are just minimal things, just tripping over something and breaking your leg, breaking your ankle. And when you break something, what happens? You get scared. You get more sedentary. Loss of more muscle mass, and you get even more risk. And what's something that all of us fear? We don't want to become dependent. We don't want to go to a nursing home. We don't want to have to depend on someone to get us up and dressed and everything. And when you lose muscle mass, your risk of all those things happening, not being able to dress yourself, not being able to walk, not being able to climb stairs, all that goes up very high. The risk goes up high. What about muscle mass and living longer? Any idea, James?
Well, I'm going to go out on a guess. I'm going to guess the lower, the shorter your lifespan.
Good, James. You're doing it great. And actually, and there's a study that put a number on it. People that had loss of muscle, people that didn't have the loss of muscle, people that had preserved muscle lived on average 6 years longer. Six
Wow.
years longer. Okay? So this
And I
is
would
not.
assume those 6 years are also a good quality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
Because
if
you
you
got
lose
that
your
muscle.
exactly. And why are we talking about loss of muscle? It just is not just something with age. It also goes with kidney disease progression. The more you lose kidney function, the more you're likely to be at risk of losing your muscle mass. Because kidney disease is what they call a catabolic state. Big word, James. What does that mean? Any idea?
No, don't know.
Catabolic state. Catabolic. Catabolic means you're breaking down. You're breaking down tissue, all right? And you're breaking down more muscle than you're forming. It's that simple. Now, what does it have to do with low protein?
Well, protein builds muscles.
Yay! You're on it, James. I like it.
Let me tell you, I know so much stuff up here. I just got to do it.
Well,
I know you need to go to the gym. I know you need to exercise more. I don't do those things.
Well, we're going to discuss it a little bit. Maybe you'll do some of this. So, to keep your muscle, you got to eat right and you got to exercise. We'll spend most of our talk on protein in your diet, but let's make a little bit of reference to exercise. So, on all of your shows, not all of your shows, a lot of your shows, we've talked about over and over again, what do the majority of your viewers that are CKD3 have to worry about? They don't have to worry for the majority. Maybe 1 in 1,000 will go on dialysis. It is extremely unusual, okay? But what you do have to have your eye on the ball, which is what? The big
heart disease.
Yeah. Yes.
The word that I can't say.
Right. It's called hardening of the arteries. Just leave it at hardening of the arteries. My book extensively discusses that, and you'll become much more expert if you read the chapter on hardening of the arteries, arteriosclerosis. And that leads to strokes and heart failure and heart attacks and chest pain, angina. So that's what you got to worry about. Any exercise will help that. Now, but in terms of muscle mass, the exercise that you want to try to do is something against a weight, either your own body weight or going to the gym and lifting weights or using machines. That's how you keep your muscle intact. Do what they call resistance training. Does that ring a bell, James?
Yep. And now if someone has lost muscle mass, if they do this resistance training and they're consistent with it, will they regain muscle mass?
If you have the right dietary intake of protein, which we're going to get to, and you do that exercise, and depending on how, yeah, I mean, I go to the gym and I don't kill myself. I mean, it's like you do repetitions on the machines, or you take a weight and you lift it and you repeat it. But you can do just sit-ups. You can do planks. People know what planks are.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen all that stuff.
Yep.
Uh, and if you're a serious workout person, you're actually breaking down muscle, and you got to eat a lot of protein to get that bigger muscle. So you can exercise and eat the right amount of protein, and you will get more muscle for sure. So you use weights, you use bands. Bands are good. Sit-ups, push-ups, lunges, squats. And here's something that you don't even have to go to a gym for. Just getting up and out of a chair, and do it as much as you can, and do it quickly, and push yourself out of your chair from a seated position. Get up quickly. Getting up and down, that's the kind of stuff that will help with your muscles. And when you're climbing stairs, don't just gingerly do it. Push yourself up the stairs. And all you need is 30 to 60 minutes a week. This can add years to your life. And not only that, it can decrease your risk of a heart attack or a stroke by 50%. It's serious stuff, Jim.
Wow.
Go out there. Okay. And it's great. It reduces your depression. It decreases your anxiety. Makes you more flexible, better balanced. Helps with your weight management. Decreases your getting injured. And I love this, right? We docs and all the drug companies want to make money by prescribing drugs, or prescribing the woo-woo, or prescribing the supplements for the very low protein diet, the so-called keto analogs, which are expensive and nonsense, okay? But if exercise were this drug, it would be the most commonly prescribed drug in the world. Think about it. If you could put exercise in a pill, come on, there's so much evidence for it. It does good things. But nobody's making money other than the gyms, not the docs, not the drug companies. Okay, now James already told you what is the major thing in your diet that you need to focus on to build muscle. It's protein. It's your muscle food, all right? And protein consists of amino acids, and you need to have that stuff in your diet, right? The big question is, and this has been debated for decades now, how much protein is the right amount to eat for your average person? Do you have any clue, James, what the recommendation for the average person? What is the recommended amount of protein that the nutritional organizations?
No clue.
Okay.
But I'm going to guess we eat too much, because I see it on all the packaging. Packed with protein, 19 grams of protein. I see it everywhere as if it's magical.
Okay. It's not just how much protein, it's what the protein. We're going to get into what kinds of protein make sense and what don't, what are not so good. What are good for you, what are not so good for you. Okay. But here's a rule of thumb. Quick. It's not exact, but roughly half your weight. Okay. 200 pounds, 100 grams protein, right? 150 pounds, 75 grams protein, roughly. Okay. So that's what you should be doing, dividing it up in each of your meals. Now, okay, I want to be sure to clarify this, because I am one of the people who have been involved with the international group of kidney specialists. These are kidney specialists from around the world. And I will tell you that there's a similar organization in the U.S. that is very biased, and they're living in the past to the low protein story. So I personally am not a fan of their recommendations. The international kidney docs are from every country, all over the world, all right? And this is what they recommend. They suggest a protein intake, which is roughly in pounds going to be about a third of your weight, right? 0.36. So if you're
lower.
Yeah, it's lower. It's lower than the nutritional organizations, okay? And this is important to keep in mind, because we're going to get back to it in a minute. So the kidney organizations say about a third of your weight. So it's your 150, 50 grams, 180, 60 grams. So it's significantly lower, right? A third versus a half. I mean, it's actually 0.36. I mean, the numbers are, I'm giving you a rough idea. Now, what about the high protein diet? What does the International Kidney Organization tell you people out there about eating a high, which is not really a high protein diet, it's what the nutritional organizations are recommending. In other words, the 1.2 grams per kilo or whatever. What do they say about that? Should you do it or not? Should you take what is recommended for non-kidney patients?
I've only seen high protein for dialysis patients.
Yes, you're right, 100%. And here's what they say, which is really interesting. They say that you should avoid it, but not in everybody. Who do they say you should avoid it? If you are at risk of progression. Again, if you are one of the, and again, most of your audience is CKD3, they're not at risk of progression.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my mind, and I agree with that statement, don't obsess over going into low protein, and you may be better off eating the average recommendation for the nutritional organizations, but we'll get back to that. And what do they say? What is the international group of doctors? And these are experts from around the world. What do they say about the low and the very low protein? And we're going to get to that in a little bit. What do they say about that?
See, that's confusing because there's so much out there where people are trying to sell you something. And I don't know what's coming from doctors and what's coming from people just looking to make a buck.
What they say, James, again, and all of your audience needs to focus on this, not just in the issue of protein, but in the issue of being worried about, what things you need to fall for on the internet because you got CKD3 and you're afraid of having to become a dialysis patient. Again, you are rarely going to be at risk. We're going to talk about who's at risk, and of course, it depends on what, James. What in the lab.
Protein in the urine.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. So, again, the vast majority of you do not have significant protein in your urine. And here's what James just said. What does the international organization say about people that already have advanced kidney disease or are on dialysis? What do they say about them? You already said it.
Yep. More protein.
Yeah, what's recommended for the average person? The 1.2 grams, okay? Because they've already got kidney failure. The only reason to even vaguely be entertaining the thought, and again, I would say after you've done the rest of the stuff to slow your progression, is if you're at risk of progression, okay? And now here's an even more important thing for your older folks, and I'm an older folk, all right? You people over 70, over 80, you're the ones who are at risk of having all that stuff with the broken bones and becoming dependent on people and going into nursing homes. And you're unlikely to have a lot of protein in your urine, and you're unlikely to be facing dialysis before you die. So in my estimation, going on low protein does not make sense for most of the older folks, unless you got a good bit of protein in the urine or you've got evidence that your kidney function is going to be declining kind of quickly.
That's good to hear.
And so, yeah, and it's important. It's very important. So again, if you're an older person or you've got advanced kidney disease, you're on dialysis, roughly half of your weight, you should be eating at least that amount of protein per day. And it looks like I'm freezing up here. I don't know why.
Your video's okay, choppy, right? But we can hear you fine. Now, does it matter? And maybe you're going to get to this. Okay. The source, whether it's plant-based or animal-based, does that matter?
I would say for sure it does matter. And I assume, and I haven't heard a lot of your other guests, but I assume that they're mostly pushing what I push, plant-based diets, and we'll get to
Correct.
it in a little bit. So let's go over for the at least 10th time maybe the urine protein story. All right. Now, again, if you want to get your urine protein measured, you can take a little dipstick. We used to do 24-hour collections, and James laughs about that because it could take up a lot of room in your refrigerator. It could be dangerous.
Oh, no, not in my refrigerator, at my work refrigerator. I did it during the week while I was working.
Yeah, you don't want to have people drinking your urine for lunch. You know?
Exactly, and you don't want to label it what it is either. Because you're refrigerating it.
So we don't do the 24-hour. We do dipstick, which is a reasonable screen. And every time you go, if you're a kidney patient, at a minimum, a dipstick. But really, realistically, it's a simple test. Just like your GFR, it's part of it's a blood test. It's a urine test. You check the urine for albumin, which is a protein, and creatinine, which is the main lab test we use to measure your GFR, your estimated glomerular filtration rate, your measure of kidney function. And there used to be 3 groups, there still are, and I don't really like the classification. Mild is less than 30. If you're outside of the US, divided by 10, we use these crazy units. In our country, most of the world doesn't. In the US, it's less than 30. Moderate is 30 to 300. Severe is over 300. But I'll tell you, I would say this. If you are consistently, make it simple, 1+ or more, or you are consistently in the 200 range US in that albumin, creatinine, that urine test, or 20 outside the US, if you're in that range, you've got significant protein in your urine. You are at risk. Now, if you are CKD3, how often do these folks fall into the even getting concerned about the protein in the urine? Roughly, how many? It's roughly 1 in 10.
Yeah, so it's got to be very low. Yeah.
Most of you, 9 out of 10 of you who have CKD3 probably do not have a protein in their urine that is indicating that you're at risk of progression. Okay. So it's only the people that have significant proteinuria, and I'm getting into, and a lot of you have, to my knowledge, there's a book and there's a person who sells a keto acid supplement. They push this real strong, this very low protein story. And the people that should even be considering that are those folks that have tried to decrease the protein in the urine with the drugs we just talked about. Mm-hmm. That's first class. We know those drugs work. The very low protein or even low protein, no good proof it works. These drugs work. So you got to be on the ACE or the R. You got to be on the SGLT2. Maybe even consider the stuff that James is on. It's called an aldo antagonist. I would push the spironolactone. It's a cheap drug, not the finerenone, which is ridiculously expensive. Same kind of drug. Or the GLP-1s. You need to try all that stuff. If you still got a lot of protein in the urine, maybe I would consider giving it a shot. But that's going to be a small, tiny segment of the kidney patient population. And again, you got to be at risk, serious risk, because it's a horrible diet. It's unpalatable. And the amount of protein that you're going to eat is ridiculously low. I mean,
so one thing real quick, Doc.
Yeah.
I was recently, I went back through my medical records because I downloaded them a long time ago from when I was first admitted in the ICU. And my protein was 300. And ever since I got out, and they got me on all the, I take an ACE, I take a bunch of blood pressure medicines, including that aldosterone.
Spironolactone.
Yeah. Uh, now it never shows up. It always
Right.
says no trace, which is
So
fantastic.
okay. So here, we're not going to spend a lot of time on urine protein because that's a whole lecture. But I will say this, James. Just like confirming that you got kidney disease by at least 2 tests 3 months apart that are lower than 60 your GFR. You don't need, if you don't get that, you don't even have kidney disease unless you got significant protein in the urine.
Mhm.
Now, we already said what's significant protein, at least 1+ consistently, or the urine albumin creatinine, let's say in the 200+ range. U.S. over 20 outside the U.S. But there are things like acute illness, like you had, that can raise the urine protein. And that would not be what your baseline is. And just like following your kidney function, you need baseline, you need repeated values. And the same thing would be for urine protein. If you consistently have that urine protein, you're at risk. And I think yours might have been due to acute illness. And a lot of things can raise urine protein, fever, acute illness, stuff like that. So those of you who haven't heard the last talk, go back and listen to it. And I talk about a lot of stuff in that talk, but I do mention the people that are CKD 4 and 5, in other words, EGFR is less than 30, more likely, which stands to reason, you got to that point, you're going to more likely be people with protein in the urine. Mm-hmm. Much less likely if you're CKD3. So what does the International Kidney Organization say about that very low protein diet? Again, only even consider it. They don't say do it if you are at risk. And I would add this. They don't add it. Then you've tried these other drugs and you still got significant protein in the urine, which means you're still at risk. And people cannot follow the diet. It's crazy. It's like 0.3 to 0.4. Okay, grams per kilo. What does that translate into? It translates into let's use the 0.4. If you are a 200-pound person, 36 grams of protein. That's ridiculously low.
Holy cow! I've seen health bars at the gym that have more than that.
I mean, it is unpalatable. It is unpleasant. You've got to take, because you're not going to get protein is made up of amino acids, and there's, I think, 8 of them that are essential. And so if you're going to eat extremely low protein, you got to take these pills called keto analogs that have these essential amino acids so you can keep your protein stores up. And again, it's ridiculous, it's expensive, it's unpalatable, and it makes no sense. It makes no sense. You're looking for trouble. And, you're looking for trouble unless you got a darn good reason and everything else isn't working out for you. You want to try this? I would say that's reasonable. But make sure you got all these other things already working for you. And you don't want to overlook what works to take the woo-woo.
Right. The woo-woo is expensive, and it could be damaging.
Yeah. So now we'll get into what James and I think a lot of your viewers want to hear about. What do you eat? Okay, so sarcopenia is a reality, like taxes and death. You're going to lose your muscle, and it accelerates with your age, and it will accelerate if you're losing kidney function, unfortunately. So you want to eat protein, and we'll talk about what protein to eat. And I will just mention again that any exercise is good, because if you're CKD3, that'll decrease your risk of death. And plant-based diets, Mediterranean diets, my SMART diet, which I outline in detail in the book, which is very similar to plant-based Mediterranean. We're all on the same page with that. I think most of the people on your show are on the same page. And James, it's simple. Don't eat too much and eat mostly plants. Don't eat too much and eat mostly plants if you want to stay on this earth as long as possible and see your kids and your grandkids grow up.
It sounds so simple, but it is not that easy with all the processed foods everywhere.
There's a lot of junk food out there, James, and I get it. And, what you want to eat, I would say the minimum is the 0.8 that the International Kidney Organization said, which is about half your weight. I'm sorry, it's about a third of your weight. Okay, that's a minimum. My suggestion, if you are an older person, CKD 3 or even 4, if you don't have a lot of protein, I would do at least half your weight in protein a day, at least. And red meat, there's some decent evidence that red meat is not good for you and not good for your kidneys. It may actually cause your kidney function to decline faster. So you want to eat fruits and vegetables. You want to eat what's good stuff to get protein. Fish are great sources of protein. Yogurt is a great source of protein. Any kind of beans or lentils or chickpeas, I mean, great source of protein. I make salads. I'm the salad maker in this house. And I've been putting beans in it and stuff like that. And it's tasty. You can put nuts in your salad. A lot of people like to make smoothies. And smoothies are cool, You can put fruit in your smoothies, obviously. You could put nuts in there for crunch. And you can use the powders. Whey, W-E-H-Y. Whey is a protein source that you can put a little bit of that powder in. And that has all the essential amino acids. Hard-boiled egg. Eggs are great. 6 grams per egg. Again, don't fall for the processed foods. Processed foods will kill you. Most of the stuff that says good for your health, it's garbage. Eat real food. Eat stuff that's, in the produce section. Eat eggs. But you can open up a can of stuff that's good to put in your salad. What kind of cans of stuff are good? Most canned stuff are not so great, but what's canned vegetables are probably okay. But what about
you need to
things?
find low sodium, because it's all, when I think canned, I think loaded with sodium.
Okay, but I'll tell you, James, I am less concerned. I mean, I'm not saying sodium is not good, but it's not the thing to really worry about. Worry more about getting your blood pressure under control, getting your bad lipids under control, eating plant-based stuff. What is cheap and good to throw in your salads? Meat, fish, sardines, tuna. That's fine. Throw some of that in, Put your tuna in with chickpeas and nuts. Yogurt, Greek yogurt is 17 grams a cup. I love nuts, pumpkin seeds, Don't eat those carbs for breakfast. Replace it with protein. And protein will make you full faster.
Now, what about those protein shakes? Somebody's asking about that. To me, that's highly processed.
I would make your own. And these little blenders are cheap. It takes few more minutes, and you can experiment with stuff you want to throw in it that will make it tasty for you. And there's a lot of plants that are high in protein, including beans and Brussels sprouts and broccoli. And don't eat white rice. Brown rice has got protein in it. Artichoke hearts. I'm going to let your dietitians tell your folks, because that's not my game.
I'll tell you, a lot of what you just said make great dips for carrots and celery.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all good. And I'm good with all that, But the main message is being on those really low protein diets, for those of you that think that that's going to benefit you, may be a bad idea. It may be dangerous for you. It may cause you to become dependent, especially if you're an older person. It may accelerate your muscle loss. Not a good plan. And I think that's the main message for tonight, James.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that eating more protein is not dangerous. At least eating a reasonable amount. and you said half your body weight, so you're 200 pounds, you would shoot for 100 grams of protein a day. If you're 150 pounds, 75. That helps answer Hal's question right there. Um, the grams, does it matter if it's like a gram of fish protein equal to a gram of protein from beans?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But the thing, let me go back because I think you may have spoken incorrectly. I would say half your body weight if you're an older person. I feel pretty comfortable with that recommendation. If you're a younger person, you follow the International Kidney Organization, and they're saying more like a third of your body weight. Okay.
And
And
where
so,
is that line for older? Because remember, I'm just slightly over 50, so I kind of
yeah,
consider myself an older folk.
I would say that you fall into 0.8 grams per kilo, or let's say it's 0.36 per pound, because you're relatively young. I'd say 70s, 80s, and 90s and above. My personal view is your risk for by eating low protein is much greater than the benefit. Okay, and for people in the 50 to 70 or below 70, whatever. I mean, there's no hard and fast rule. Um, a third of your body weight may be more reasonable. Okay.
Very good. Hal says he's 77. He's old and he's laughing. Hey, Hal, I look forward to being 77 and hopefully up and active and traveling the world.
Okay, I'm going to try to do, because I felt a little bad last talk that I didn't get to many questions, but I'm going to try to.
There are a lot.
I know your audience is hoping to get a little advice from me, and I'll try.
Yep.
Okay, then you got protein. That's a lot. 2.7 grams. Okay, what we're talking about, anybody who's got 200 milligrams. 2.7 grams is 2,700 milligrams. Okay, so Din's got a lot of protein. Okay, and your doc gave you prednisone. That's a very long, complicated discussion, Din, and that would be for so-called glomerular diseases, which are not the majority of your viewers, but that'll give you a lot of protein in the urine. Cindy, the trends is 0.21. Okay, I can't quite understand it, but that doesn't sound like a lot of protein. Okay, let me keep moving down. So David has been following you, James. Oh, I see.
Hey, we got lots of long time fans here. They love the information.
Okay. Okay, his son in the Philippines. Okay. Albumin creatinine is 11, which would be in the U.S. would be about 110 or about 100. Okay. So 100 that is borderline. Okay. And I would at least, so you're on the gliflozin, which is cool. Yeah, it's okay. That's good. But again, Sam, I'm going to shorten your name. Make sure you're taking an ACE or an ARB. That should be the first drug, and then the SGLT2, the gliflozin, is the second one. All right.
She is on losartan, 50 milligrams.
Okay, cool. All right. And I'm trying to stay with the ones that are relevant. There's chatting with Al. Your GFR should not go down when you're eating animal protein. Just the opposite. Remember, I told you the reason why this whole idea of low protein even started out being pushed is the theory that if you take an animal, cut one kidney out, the other kidney overworks. And if you increase the protein, it'll overwork more. So it should actually raise GFR. But again, GFR is variable. You got to get
Mm-hmm.
multiple readings, okay, especially when it's at the higher end. Uh, and okay, let's see, 75 stage 3. Wait, this is great. Rita has stage 3 for 25 years. Let's give
Yay!
it. And I'm not just applauding you. I'm using you, Rita, as a good case study, because CKD3 by and large is not going to progress. It's unusual. Again, it's very unusual. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, that's fine. All right. Yeah. Yeah. So I can't tell you, Rita, about blood pressure control. That's something you work out with your doctor. But what I will say is check your blood pressure at home and show those readings to your doctor. Yeah. So this is chatting. Yeah. If your blood pressure is high now, if here's my advice regarding blood pressure medicine. You start feeling weak or dizzy, check your blood pressure. If it's in the 100 range, probably you can hold that dose of medicine. 100 to 110, you might want to hold it. Certainly anything below 100, you want to hold it. Yeah, so someone's low protein, but now eating fish and chicken, that's fine. We already talked about that, okay. Oh, kidney transplant, that's a good one. Yeah, Anina is a kidney transplant patient, and Anina, I don't really have, that I've seen, research on dietary protein and your kidney transplant. So I'm afraid I can't give you advice. I would ask your doctor on that one. And Tyrone, there is no such thing as stage 2. As we talked about, it's only stage 3, which is less than 60, repeated at least twice, unless you've got significant protein that we've discussed. Then you're stage 2 with it, real kidney disease. Okay.
You're doing great,
Okay,
Doc.
all right. How much time we got?
Hey, we got 12 minutes. You're doing
All
great.
right.
Keep going.
All right. Okay.
And everyone out
Yeah.
there, write your questions in.
This is your chance. Okay. So Palma's got 3A, which is I think what most people have, and this has given me a chance to say something. What if you are 75 years old, James, and your GFR is between 45 and 60, and you don't have protein in the urine? Do you have kidney disease?
No.
What would you say?
It is the normal decline of kidney function as you've gotten older.
Yeah.
Stay
It could
active, keep your blood pressure under control, eat a heart healthy diet, do all the right things.
Right,
but don't
yeah.
worry about your kidneys being a problem.
Paulette, I like the fact you're going up and down stairs all day. Wonderful. Push off on the stairs. Sylvia, dialysis. Okay. Okay. Talk more about stage 4 and 5. We've got talks. If you go through Dadvice TV, I certainly have discussed stage 4 and 5, and I will again, as Wash, as we discussed earlier, stage 4 and 5 they're more likely to have protein in the urine. Which test is better, protein or? Here's my thing, Carlos. We are moving away from the protein creatinine. We all should be talking the same language. We talk about EGFR, which is most labs are doing a pretty standard test. Let's talk about albumin creatinine. I think that's a better. We'll all be talking about with the same language. Let's see here. All right. Okay. So someone lost most of my muscle. Here's something. Whatever. I lost most of my muscle. I look like a skeleton. I was trying to stay on a really low protein, but my creatinine is high, but not over the limit. How can I gain these muscles back? The first thing is, I just wonder, how many people have been harmed, which is my main reason to give this talk, by falling for this low protein stuff when they didn't need to do it. Now, okay, to get your muscles back, again, high protein diet and exercise with weights. Yeah, so again, protein, creatinine, alpha creatinine doesn't make a difference. They're equally good. It's just you'll have different units. And yeah, protein shakes. Yeah, I would make my own, but I can't. I don't know a lot about protein shakes. Someone's got CKD5, and then okay, Sharon, with CKD5, read my book. I don't know how old you are, but please read my book. I think if you are around 10, which is what you're showing me on the screen, if you start at 10 or more, that would just be generally called early. And my research, depending on your age and a lot of other factors, showed the best results when people started below 5. I can't say that you should do that. Look at my chapter on when to start dialysis and your choices of different types of dialysis and transplant, and discuss it with your doc, Sharon.
We've had some new questions come in.
Go ahead. You got one you want to ask, James?
One is, this is a good one. What is an AKI? And I'm going to add a second question to that. Can you have an AKI with CKD?
Yeah. So, can you, James? You probably
yes, you can.
Right. So yeah. So you can have abnormal kidney function, and you can have what they call an insult to your kidneys. The most common thing would be dehydration, maybe taking a drug like NSAIDs, like Motrin and stuff like that. And you can have your kidney function decline, you're bleeding or something like that, low blood pressure, and your kidneys will recover most of the time back to your baseline. Okay, so we already answered some of your questions.
Is hardening of the arteries reversible or stoppable?
Okay, you kidney patients, especially if you've got protein in the urine, your risk of getting worse hardening of the arteries, heart attacks and strokes, goes up as you get lower kidney function and if you got more protein in the urine. You want to get your bad cholesterol less than 50. It used to be less than 100. I would say less than 50. Now, is that reversible? Is your hardening artery reversible? No good evidence to show that. But hopefully you will slow it down. And you want to do all the stuff we discussed with blood pressure control and get your bad cholesterol down. Yeah, so as far as doing an SGLT2, they are now become the drugs of choice for diabetics who are listening. After metformin, glucophage, that's the top drug, and then the SGLT2 will be the next drug, good for your kidneys and your diabetes, and good for your heart. Hal, 24-hour kidney stones, you're kind of stuck because they do have to figure out what's in your urine. There's no easy way around that one. Amputee, plant-based diet. Yeah, I mean, there are people that work that can do exercise in wheelchairs, and I'm not an expert, but I would see if you can get yourself a trainer.
And actually, I want to chime in right here. Hey, Fred, this is a great question about doing exercise, strength training in a wheelchair. I have someone who will be on next month, which is just around the corner, who will talk about getting around with physical disabilities, exercising and stuff like that. And I'm hoping to kind of make that a regular thing every month to help, because a lot of people either are in a wheelchair or they have mobility issues that come with age that listen to these talks here, and hopefully we'll get some more information to help them.
All right, James, I think we've done good. I mean, I think this is one of the few times that we have just about answered all your questions, unless you've got a question or unless you see one that I missed.
I am all good. Let me look down here at the bottom and see if there's anything. Someone just said, I just finished reading your book with a big heart. That is great. As a matter of fact, let me remind everyone about your book. It is Learn the Facts About Kidney Disease. Excellent, excellent book. Very easy to read. You can get it at your local mom and pop bookstores. They can order a copy for you if you'd like. I always try to go to the local shops when I purchase books to help give them some love. And it's fantastic just walking through those stores and finding all sorts of books there. Some I've read in my past, kind of memory lane.
The last question on the list, this Sam has asked several. SGLT2 with a 23 EGFR, it's around the range that we still are, the kidney experts are saying, when you get down below 20, there's not good research on whether they are okay. But I think you're still okay with it. And if you have an indication to be on it, you've got heart failure, you've got a lot of protein in the urine with your CKD, absolutely, it's okay. I think we got it covered.
Awesome.
Somebody,
Very
what's
good.
the last? Someone in the last question, did we answer it? I don't know.
So that one was, please answer right. I'm trying to find their last one.
Oh, the vitamin D. Oh, vitamin D. Okay. Oh,
yeah, here it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure what the units are, what the normal values are. And I don't think that's not a big issue. We do have a talk on bone disease. I would refer you to the Dadvice TV show that I did talking about bone disease, the parathyroid hormone, and vitamin D. There's a lot to that conversation, and I refer you to that.
Yep. All right, Doc. Our time is up. This has been a wonderful chat. I am actually thrilled that I don't have to worry as much about how much protein. I'm not eating a crazy amount. And I like that as I get older, eating more. I'm going to give serious consideration because I've been wanting to join a gym. There's one almost walking distance from my house. So maybe this will be enough to get me to join the gym. I started walking through the neighborhood, but then we had these storms. Now it's so muggy and hot today. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. But I got to join the gym. Then once I'm getting the bill, I'll feel so bad for not going. And let me tell you, I bought all this gear. I bought the hand towels, the towel for showering, the bag. I bought everything on Amazon. I am all ready. I just got to go. That's the hard part.
All right. Well, good luck with that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Doc. And thank you, everyone out there. The next show is, let me actually bring it up real quick. The next one will be with Jen on the 7th of May. So that's a week from tomorrow. Jen will be here. And she does a live Q&A. So you get to ask a renal dietitian your questions and just bring them. We get tons of questions. She gets through as many as she can during her time. But that'll be next week. All right. And Dr. Rowe will be here again next month. We'll post it once we get it all scheduled. And thanks so much, Doc. And thanks everyone out there. If you like this content, give it a thumbs up and share it. That helps tell YouTube, hey, this is good content, so we can get it out there in front of more people so they're not wasting their money, risking their lives on those people who are pushing the low protein diet, especially ones that are not doctors and they're just trying to sell some pills and a diet to people. All right. Thanks, Dr. Rowe. And thank you, everyone out there. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.
Bye.